Welcome back in. Appreciate all of you hanging out with us. Monday edition, Outkick the coverage. So much to dive into. We are here in the Geico Outkick studios, and there are so many different plays that are worth diving into over the course of Sunday's NFL action. And we open talking about Sunday Night Football and the Titans' big game against the Steelers and what we learned from the battle of two 5-0 teams. But to me, one of the most fascinating storylines coming into this season was how would Tom Brady and Bill Belichick fare without each other? And the way that I've been classifying it is who would win the divorce? And I think that debate is over. I think the debate has been soundly answered. To me, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are the best team in the NFC. Now, they don't have the best record. The Seattle Seahawks have a better record. The Green Bay Packers have a better record. But right now, as we come up on the halfway point of the season, one of the things you have to look forward and think about is who has the ability to accelerate into the turn in the second half of the season. There are a lot of teams with winning records. There are a lot of teams that can make the playoffs. There are a lot of decent and good teams in the NFC right now. But if you told me to pick who is going to be the NFC representative in the Super Bowl, it would be Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're now adding Antonio Brown to their team. They have what I believe to be the best combination of offense and defense in the entirety of the NFC. And that's reflected so far in the overall outcomes of their games. Tampa Bay has got an 80-point differential, plus 80-point differential in the NFC right now. No one else is even remotely close to that, okay? They're about 30 points better than anybody else in the NFC so far through playing a full 7-game slate. Now, to be fair, some teams have played one less game, and it's possible they could come out and win, 45-3, and they could change the point differential dynamics. But the Bucs, they lost a game against the Bears. I understand you Chicago Bear fans out there who are like, hey, what about us? We're 5-1. We're good. Okay, I understand that argument. I don't really buy it. I think the Bears are a little bit of a fraud. They're only 12 points better right now, the Bears are, than even, right? So that they are 5-1, but they have only outscored their opponents so far by a total of 12 points. And if you want to think about what that would ordinarily reflect in terms of point differential, that could very easily be a 500 record or even below 500. And so they've been a little bit fortunate in terms of how those numbers have broken in their favor so far this year. So I just think it's worth contemplating there. If I were picking right now, and you said, Clay, based on 7 games, 7 weeks, who are the two teams that are going to meet in the Super Bowl? I would say it's going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers playing in their home stadium against the Kansas City Chiefs. Those are the two teams that I think are the best. But the big takeaway here is the Patriots have imploded. And I think it's fair to say that Bill Belichick's ego might have overridden his decision-making in this rare circumstance. Because Brady right now, it seemed to me that the New England Patriots believed that Brady didn't have much gas left in the tank. And the Patriots are the number one team that they would rather let their veterans go and constantly be cycling through new, younger players. And it seems to me readily apparent that the decision was made by Bill Belichick that Brady didn't have enough gas left in the tank. Consider what they did yesterday. Brady threw 45 passes for the Bucs yesterday. 33 of them were complete for 369 yards, 4 touchdowns, not a single interception, a 127 quarterback rating performance to get his team to 5-2 and go on the road and win against a pretty good Raiders team, by the way. It's not like they were playing against a bad team. What about the Patriots quarterbacks, Cam Newton, who was benched, and Jarrett Stidham, who came in? They combined to go 15 of 25 for 162 yards passing, 4 interceptions, and they had a quarterback rating of 39.5. The Patriots are not making the playoffs this year. They are a bad football team, and they are trending down as opposed to trending up. And I understand everybody out there who says, hey, you know what? The Patriots have been like this before. Yeah, but they had Tom Brady to be able to rescue them. And frankly, they haven't been this bad as they were the last couple of weeks. And remember, I know there's not a huge home field advantage, but playing in Foxborough in back-to-back weeks, they have lost to the Chiefs, to the Broncos, and they lost to the 49ers, and obviously they lost to the Chiefs on the road before that. So they've lost 3 games in a row. And now they go on the road against the Bills, who have to just be licking their chops over an opportunity to finally beat the Patriots. And then they get the Jets, which will be a win, I think. Even the Jets, even when the Patriots are awful, they'll still get a win there. But then they play against the Ravens. So I think at the midway point of the season, there's a very good chance that effectively the Patriots are done and they are out of the mix to be able to contend for the playoffs because they'll be sitting at something like 3-5 at the midway point of the season, and they're just not going to be able to catch the Bills, who have a big opportunity to effectively eliminate the Patriots next week in this scenario, right? They can knock the Patriots down to 2-5. The Bills can go to 6-2. And Bill fans who are listening to me right now can say, don't say it out loud. I don't want you to jinx it. They've beaten us so many times over the years. But this is not the New England Patriot team you grew up watching. This is not the Bill Belichick of yore. This is Bill Belichick losing the divorce and overrating himself and his coaching acumen and thinking that Brady had nothing left and that he was going to be able to take advantage of this situation. All right? So that to me is one of the biggest takeaways from activity on Sunday. A couple of other big takeaways that we haven't gotten to yet. Andy Dalton getting absolutely wrecked in a hit by John Bostic for the Washington football team that was so unbelievably dirty that Bostic should have a substantial fine, maybe even face some more discipline than just a fine from the league. But nobody on the Dallas Cowboy offensive line stood up and defended their quarterback at all. Such that Mike McCarthy was saying after the game, and I quote, "We speak all the time about playing for one another, protecting one another. It definitely was not the response you would expect." That is a situation where if you are an offensive lineman, your job is to protect the quarterback. When the opposing team does that to your quarterback and none of you stand up to defend him, that speaks volumes about the status of your team right now. And I also think it speaks incredible volumes about how little this team respects Mike McCarthy or the coaching staff. The Cowboys are now 2-5, and even in the awful NFC East, they pretty much face a must-win game on the road against the Eagles. But I think it's unlikely that Andy Dalton will be able to play in that game, meaning we are talking about just an unmitigated disaster for the Cowboys. Because right after that, they play against the undefeated Steelers, and the Cowboys are squarely staring in the face a 2-7 start that would effectively eliminate them from playoff contention, even in the woeful, very bad, no good NFC East. And the fact that nobody stood up for Andy Dalton is a horrible sign for what's going on in the NFC East right now. Also, this stat is pretty unbelievable. This is from NFL research. With Washington beating the Cowboys, Week 7 is now ending without a single NFC East team reaching 3 wins yet. This is the first time in NFL history that every team in a division has fewer than 3 wins through Week 7. We've truly never seen a division this bad in the history of football, and somebody is going to be able to host a home playoff game despite how bad this is. And frankly, the Eagles, fly, you guys have a chance to take complete control of this division with a 3-4-1 record this coming weekend in 6 days against the Dallas Cowboys. But the fact that nobody stood up for them at all is a horrible sign. And I want to circle back around on the Patriots for just a minute, because I talked about the Brady-Belichick breakup and who was going to win the divorce. But I also said something that I think is really significant, and that was before the season started. I said that Cam Newton, to me, was the most fascinating single player in the entirety of the NFL season. Because I said if you looked at Cam, there was such a wide range of what potentially might happen with him in this season. Because if Cam went out and played fabulously well, people would say the Patriots redeemed Cam Newton's career, and somebody would give him $75 million plus to be their starting quarterback going forward. And maybe that team would have even been the New England Patriots. This was a small dollar contract, and this was Cam Newton's opportunity to prove that he still had the goods to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. Instead, what we have seen so far is Cam Newton does not look like a starting quarterback in the NFL, even with Josh McDaniels working with him, and even with the best head coach in the history of the NFL. Belichick had the reputation as a guy who could work magic even without Tom Brady. And many of us have sat around for a long time and wondered what Brady would have looked like without Belichick to coach him. What we are seeing happen right now in Tampa Bay is Brady looks like Brady. He doesn't look much different than he did in New England. And Belichick is not able to turn Cam Newton into Matt Castle. He's not finding ways to win in spite of no longer having Tom Brady. But to me, the biggest loser is not going to be Belichick, because Belichick didn't spend a lot of money on his quarterback position this year. And a lot of people thought, with all the players from the Patriots who opted to sit out, a lot of people thought, myself included, that what would end up happening was the Patriots wouldn't be that good, but that their risk-reward with Cam Newton offered them ample opportunity to potentially find their way into the playoffs and for Cam to prove that he still has a lot of years left as a starting quarterback in this league. What I am seeing from Cam Newton so far, and I don't think it's too early to start to make a judgment, even with the challenges of COVID and even with the difficulty of no training camp and everything else, everyone is playing under the same rules and the same difficulties, and the New England Patriots are approaching the halfway point on their season, sitting at 2-4, now going on the road against the Bills with an opportunity for the Bills to jump all over them and effectively end their season. This is it for Cam. I think Cam could get benched for Jarrett Stidham before long, because I think the Patriots maybe, in the back of their mind, could find themselves in the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes before all is said and done. But for Cam, this is a tough spot, because he's not that old for a quarterback, but the numbers that he posted on Sunday are not numbers that is going to have anybody trying to sign him. Remember, there wasn't a huge demand for Cam Newton in the offseason already. That's why the Patriots got him so cheap. And he went 9 for 15 for 98 yards, 3 interceptions. He had a QBR of 3.5. He had an overall quarterback rating of 39.7. And significantly, and I told you I was worried about this, as the season moved along, teams were going to figure out what Cam was doing in the running game, and also he was going to start to get beaten up in the running game, and it was going to become harder and harder for him to make as many plays with his legs as he had been, and that's exactly what we're seeing. Cam was only able to run the ball 5 times for 19 yards against the San Francisco 49er defense, which hemmed him in and gave him a real beating. So, Cam Newton, biggest potential boom, and also biggest potential bust as a starting quarterback in the NFL this year. And I think it is trending very much in the direction, unfortunately for Cam Newton, of bust.